Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Minecraft, starting with the Awakening Block Puppet Master. Chapter 51. The furious Calamity Bailing looked at Ji Shin dreamingly, the blood-red color in his eyes quickly receding. At this moment, only Ji Shin was left in his world. He spoke with a trembling voice, "Master, my heart aches. Can you help me kill them?" Ji Shin looked at the disaster lark with tears streaming down his face and couldn't help but feel pity. His whole family was wiped out, and his relatives have always been a knot in his heart. The reason for his rage was probably because someone in the disaster team used the words of his relatives to stimulate him. "Don't worry, none of them will survive." Ji Shin stretched out his hand to free the disaster lark, but the strong power of the curse transformed into several chains that tightly locked the disaster lark's hands and feet. He pulled like this, and several scratches were instantly scratched on Calamity Lark's wrist. Ji Shin was slightly shocked. He tried to touch the blue mist, but nothing happened. This blue mist is specially used to control Zinpan and has no effect on other people. Ji Shin looked at the disaster team and said in a cold voice, "How do you solve this thing?" "I'm only going to ask you once." One of the predators said tremblingly. "Cut off his hands and feet, and the power of the curse will naturally dissipate." A vein stretched out on Ji Shin's forehead. He had never seen such a brave person before. Even though he had become a prisoner, he was still provoking himself here. Puppet number 1, tear him apart. "No, spare my life, spare my life. Everything I said is true." The predator collapsed directly to the ground, and then his vision went dark, and his whole person was smashed into a puddle of mud. Ji Shin's eyes moved again, and he asked an evoker, "Tell me. Have mercy. What that person just said is true. Even if Zinpan loses his hands and feet, their abilities will not be affected." Ji Shin laughed angrily, as the other party thought that what he cared about was the Calamity Lark's ability. "Send him on his way." "Ah!" This scream completely broke the psychological defenses of the others, and they all knelt down and begged for mercy. At this moment, Wunyan Wang Cheng and other talents arrived belatedly. Although Ji Shin learned the news later, he still arrived one step ahead of Wang Cheng and the others thanks to the high speed of the obsidian puppet. Wunyan looked at the blue mist before walking towards it and said, "Brother Ji, let me do it." "Do you have a way to deal with this blue curse?" Ji Shin replied doubtfully. Wunyan smiled and nodded, and said, "My withering infection can also infect this energy body." After saying that, I saw him putting his hand on the blue mist, and a strong withering power quickly infected the blue mist, turning it into a black mist in the blink of an eye. Wunyan took a deep breath, and the withering infection started again, and the black mist was quickly sucked back into his body. Ji Shin quickly hugged the Calamity Lark who was helpless and collapsed, marveling at Wunyan's ability. Wu Nianlu's move helped him a lot. He really didn't expect that the opponent's skill was so strong. He admitted that he had underestimated this skill before. After finishing this, Ji Shin moved his gaze to the members of the disaster team. A faint white light lit up in his eyes, and the obsidian swirling in his hand quickly formed a cage, trapping them in it. "You like to fight more with less, don't you? Okay, I'll make it happen for you. Don't say I didn't give you a chance to live. The rules are very simple. The 9 of you only need to defeat one of my puppets. If you win, you can leave. I will do what I say." Immediately afterwards, Ji Shin waved his hand, and the obsidian cage expanded rapidly, splicing with various stones in the ground. In the blink of an eye, a coliseum appeared here. When the members of the disaster team saw this scene, their whole bodies were trembling. This kind of power that could create things in an instant had already made their legs weak from fear. It was also the first time that Wunyan saw Ji Shin display his true strength, and he couldn't help but feel in awe. But Wang Cheng and Chu Linger were much calmer. Their boss was cheating, and they had known about it for a long time. "This is a monster. This is a monster, we can't win. Ah. Control cubes. No. Impossible. How did you master this ability that only gods can master? Run away. We still have a chance. If we kill Calamity Xingquan, we can go back. After we go back, we won't have to die, ha 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 ha." As he spoke, one of the defenders took an axe and struck at Calamity Xingquan's forehead. Ji Shin smiled disdainfully. He had already seen Zinpan's abilities. How could he not be prepared in advance? 6 obsidian stones flew out from his hand, transforming into an obsidian cage in the air, tightly covering Disaster Xingquan. Then, pulled out of the field. Ji Shin looked at the disaster and said calmly, "Thanks to your Zinpan status, you can die later." Calamity Xingquan's space jump is not as strong as Calamity Lark. When he came to another area, most of his abilities were basically locked, and he could not escape from the obsidian cage at all. Ji Shin looked back at the people in the Colosseum. "Don't think of other tricks. My rules are simple. Defeat it and you will be free." The remaining members of the Calamity team looked at the giant obsidian puppet and trembled. There was no trace of fighting spirit. They all knelt down and begged for mercy, trying to get Ji Shin to let them go. Ji Shin sneered and ignored it. He discovered that the disaster squad had an obvious characteristic. Whenever they couldn't defeat them, they would give in very quickly. As soon as you let your guard down, you will be stabbed in the back on the spot. He was very familiar with this urine property. Puppet 1. Kill them all. When Ji Shin gave the order, the obsidian iron puppet immediately became red-eyed and started beating up a group of people on its own without any timidity at all. Seeing that their begging for mercy was in vain, the members of the disaster team all turned red-eyed and shouted, "Brothers, if we fight this black monster, there might be a chance of survival. Yes, we are all warriors of the Calamity Empire, and together we are invincible. Brothers, attack formation." They are all disaster villagers who have completed the first level of Kung Fu. Their strength and physical fitness far exceed that of an ordinary raider team. Between life and death, they broke out with unprecedented fighting power. During the cooperation of protecting each other, they were able to fight the obsidian puppet twice. Wu Nian walked up to Ji Shin and said with some worry in his eyes, "This is a battle between trapped beasts. People in despair can burst out with unprecedented strength." Ji Shin heard this and didn't care. He watched the fighting in the Colosseum and said with interest, "Wu Nian, do you know what true despair is?" "Real despair?" Wu Nian asked Nan Nan, who was a little confused. Finally, under the successive attacks of these 7 members of the disaster, a small slit was punched out in the obsidian puppet's body. "Ha ha ha. Brothers, hold on, we are almost successful." Everyone in Calamity was overjoyed. The obsidian puppet's defense gave them hope of survival. Ji Shin didn't panic at all when he saw this scene, and his voice was still cold. "The real despair is when you see hope, even greater despair is waiting for you later." In the field, the obsidian puppet was obviously annoyed by the opponent. He took out the iron ingots he had prepared in advance and started eating them. The cheers of the members of the disaster squad suddenly stopped, and the crack in the obsidian puppet was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The obsidian puppet is not just a simple obsidian puppet. He evolved from the steel puppet, and his full name is already called the obsidian steel puppet. Therefore, the characteristic that the steel golem can be repaired with iron ingots has been completely inherited. Seeing this scene, the disaster squad didn't have any desire to fight. The gap they had worked so hard to open was repaired by knocking an iron ingot on it. What a slap in the face. "Ha ha ha, we can't win at all, you don't want us to win, ha 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 ha." A Taoist priest finally couldn't hold on any longer. The glimmer of hope he had in his heart was ruthlessly extinguished by Ji Shin. He picked up the axe and hit his own head with a single blow, making him hate Shishi on the spot. Compared to having the obsidian puppet smashed to pieces, committing suicide can leave a whole body. Ji Shin looked at this scene with a smile, clicked his tongue twice in his heart, and said jokingly, "It's a pity, the experience of suicide is not mine." The level of this group of people is above level 10, and they drop much more experience than zombies. In the Colosseum, the obsidian puppet scratched his head, looking a little silly. He couldn't understand why the other party suddenly committed suicide. Is it so terrible to restore blood by himself? A predator in the field yelled hysterically at Ji Shin, "You agreed, if we defeat this monster, you will let us go. What do you mean, you don't keep your word?" Ji Shin raised his eyebrows and said to Wu Nian on the left, "He said I didn't keep my word." "Wu Nian, did I not keep my promise?" Wu Nian suppressed a smile. Keep. Ji Shin turned to Chulinger on the right and said, "Did you see that I didn't keep my word?" Chulinger turned around and whistled, and said nonchalantly, "Our boss is the most trustworthy person." "Ha ha ha, that's right. I told you that if you defeat one of my puppets, I'll let you go. The key is to give you a chance and you won't be of any use." Ji Shin clapped his hands and his eyes instantly turned cold. All the puppets on guard outside the arena moved and jumped into the Colosseum to start an inhuman massacre. Besides, I set the rules. Even if I don't keep my word, what can you do to me? When Calamity Shinquan, who was trapped in the obsidian cage, saw this scene, he was shocked into a cold sweat and his face was full of despair. It was too strong. The few moves Ji Xinjian showed had already refreshed his 3 views. If there were gods in the world, they would be nothing more than this. Seeing that the people in the Colosseum were almost cleaned up, Ji Shin looked at the Disaster Shinquan in the obsidian. Disaster Shinquan trembled when he saw it, and he quickly begged for mercy. Don't kill me. I'm useful. I can reveal some information about the Kingdom of Calamity to you, as long as you let me live. Ji Shin remained silent, his eyes lit up with white light, and the 5 fingers of his right hand came together. The obsidian cage was pulled and began to squeeze the body of Disaster Shinquan. Choking sound. The suffocation caused by the squeezing of the cube made Calamity Shinquan begin to struggle, trying hard to smash the obsidian in front of him with his hands. But he is just a weak Zenpan, how can he roll away the obsidian? Don't kill me, I'm useful, I can work for you, I can be your dog. Under the threat of death, Disaster Shinquan began to talk nonsense, even giving up the dignity he cared about most. Ji Shin's face was full of disgust, and he did not let go of the power of creation in his hands. He waited until the opponent only had 1 health left before giving up. Why do you look familiar to me? Ji Shin walked forward, looked at Calamity Shinquan, and then at Calamity Lark. The more he looked at the 2 people, the more they looked like each other. Disaster Shinquan breathed in the fresh air, his eyes full of the aftermath of the disaster. When he heard Ji Shin ask this, he quickly started to get close to him. The Calamity Lark is my biological nephew, and I am his biological uncle. Oh, is it so? Ji Shin turned to ask the Disaster Lark. The Disaster Lark clenched his fists and nodded, but then shook his head. From now on, he is not. Ji Shin was so smart. After exchanging glances, he could guess the reason why the Disaster Lark was so angry. Since there is no relation, let's kill him. Hey, no, Bai Ling, my nephew, look at your uncle, I am your only relative in the world now. When Ji Shinquan saw that Ji Shin was going to kill someone and silence him, he was so frightened that he begged for mercy. He knew that if he wanted to survive, he had to make his silly nephew happy. As soon as he heard the word relatives, Calamity Lark's emotions reached the edge of collapse again, and the scene of his parents being hanged on the gallows was still vivid in his mind. That desperate look in his eyes was something he could never forget, and it had even become his nightmare. Seeing that his stupid apprentice was about to lose control again, Ji Shin glanced at Chu Ling-er. Chu Ling-er understood this and quickly took the hand of the Calamity Lark and walked towards the base. Bailing, leave this to your master. Let's go back to the base. Be good and don't cry. After they walked away, Ji Shin showed an honest smile, looked at Calamity Shinquan and said, since he is Bai Ling's uncle, he can talk about anything. Disasters bring shame. The other party said the same thing just now, and as a result, his colleagues died more miserably than the last. What do you want me to do? Ji Shin chuckled and said, I am a person who treats people with integrity and is amiable. I ask you questions. If you can hear the answer I want, I will not kill you. Disaster Shinquan was covered in cold sweat. He was not an idiot. There was something in Ji Shin's words. The other party's refusal to kill oneself can also be understood as the other party's refusal to kill oneself with one's own hands. There were many people present, and he couldn't stand anyone punching him. Calamity Shinquan swallowed and asked tentatively, then they won't kill me either. They were naturally referring to Wu Nian, Wang Cheng and others. Hey, you can actually hear the meaning of my words. Ji Shin was a little surprised, and he affirmed the other party's words without concealing it and asked, okay, I promise they won't touch you, so that's the end of it. Calamity Shinquan wiped the sweat from his forehead, but he was still a little uneasy. He always felt that the other party had to think of other reasons to kill him. 3 questions. First, why are you chasing the Calamity Lark instead of me? Ji Shin originally thought that the Calamity Kingdom came to the trial site just to kill him and regain his face. But the other party was interested in the Disaster 100 spirits, which he couldn't understand. Disaster Shinquan had no way out and could only say angrily. In the disaster lark, there is a mutant heart that is unique among thousands. A normal heart cannot continuously jump through time and space. Especially when it reaches another regional world, it will basically lose its ability to jump. But Bailing Zinpan is different, he has no restrictions. In this way, his ability is the most powerful tool for the Kingdom of Calamity to travel freely to various worlds. That's it. Ji Shin nodded. After working for a long time, the other party was not interested in him at all. Okay. Secondly, do you have a demigod in your land of disaster? The kind who can step on the steps 4 times and reach the peak. Half, demigod. Calamity Shinquan's eyes were a little confused, and he paused and said, I heard that the king raised a demigod-level plundering beast, does this count? Forget it. Ji Shin nodded, as long as it is a creature that can pose a threat to him, it will be counted, gone. That's all I know, Calamity Shinquan replied cautiously. Ji Shin didn't dwell on this and directly asked the question he wanted to ask the most. Okay, the third question is, how many cubes are there in the world? You have 10 seconds to answer this question. Disaster Shinquan. A gust of cold air rushed straight to the Tianlingai where the disaster was rising. No, you can't do this, everything I said is true. Calamity Shinquan was immediately worried. Who knows how many cubes there are in this world? Ji Shin asked this question to risk his life. Ji Xinyuyu spoke, still with that honest smile on her face, 10 seconds are up. Get cold. The golden cicada stone sword in Ji Shin's hand swiped across, and the head of Calamity Shinquan was cut off on the spot. Until the moment of his death, Calamity Shinquan never thought that the reason for killing him would be so hasty. Ji Shin's honest smile gradually turned cold, and he said in a low voice, if you dare to touch my people, it doesn't matter if I let you die 1,000 times. Immediately afterwards, he picked up the head of Calamity Shinquan, and a white light suddenly appeared in his hand. Don't you want to be my dog? I will make it happen for you. Puppetry is activated. Quickly dilute the consciousness in the mind of Disaster. Disaster Villager Head Puppet Transformation +1. Wu Nian and Wang Chang on the side swallowed their saliva. This was the first time they had seen such a ruthless side of Ji Shin. With a casual move, Ji Shin put a few stones into his backpack. Come out. A stone puppet with the head of Calamity Shinquan appeared in front of Ji Shin. Open black lens bracket ding. Close black lens bracket. Stone puppet, HP 50, attack 20, speed 50, no special attack skills, can use raw stones to repair damage, likes to move rocks and dig things. New skill for detecting heads. Space jump disabled. You can use the memory of items or characters in your mind to teleport to a fixed point. When crossing regions, your body will be damaged and must be repaired. Ji Shin raised his eyebrows, not expecting an unexpected surprise. Ordinary Zinpan has a fatal flaw, that is, it cannot teleport back and forth between different regional worlds. But after Zinpan's head was made into a puppet, this flaw was perfectly solved. There are many things like stones, so as long as Calamity Shinquan's head is not damaged, he can teleport infinitely. The price is just a few stones. This actually fulfilled his idea of letting disaster cause death thousands of times. Let's go. Go home. Ji Shin gave an order, and the Shinquan puppet raised its hands dully, and tore a crack in the air according to the master's wishes. On the other side of the crack is the cave at the base. Wang Chang saw that Wu Nian beside him was frightened into a cold sweat, and he said quickly, don't be afraid. Although Xiao Xin has a weird temper, he has nothing to say about being kind to his own people. You will know it later. Wu Nian nodded, forced himself to calm down and said, Brother Chang, I understand everything you said. Then can you wipe the sweat from your forehead first? On the other side, the player in red, the king of zombies, is wearing a shabby red dress and holding a golden carrot, walking aimlessly in the main world. None of the surrounding zombies dared to come within 10 meters of him. At this moment, he seemed to realize that he was dead. There were bite marks from zombies all over his body. The putrid smell of his body was getting stronger and stronger. Even the top therapist couldn't save him. But his memory of being a player was still condensed, and there was a lump of air in his chest that made him very uncomfortable. But it was this tone that kept him alive. This feeling is amazing. He himself called this tone faith, faith in the true God Herobrine. Hungry. I'm so hungry. The player in red looked at the golden carrot in his hand and wanted to eat it, but quickly stopped. It was this golden carrot that kept him alive until now. If he really ate the golden carrot, it would kill him. At this moment, a group of players hunting zombies appeared in front. Boss, look, that zombie is holding a golden carrot in his hand. Huang Mao, hair color, pointed at the player in red who looked like a walking zombie and laughed. The blue-haired man, who was called the boss, was slightly startled. He focused his gaze and saw the player in red. Really, my hunger level has also bottomed out. After killing this zombie, we will return to the base. This group of people belongs to the Equipment Guild, and they came out just to hunt zombies and level up. The players in red now look more like zombies than the zombies around them. Their voices quickly attracted the attention of the player in red. Finally I met someone, help, I'm so hungry. In the red player's current consciousness, he is still a player and not a zombie. As long as he is given food, he can survive by relying on his faith. Call out. Before he could finish his thoughts, an arrow shot straight into his heart, knocking his already shabby body far away. His heart wasn't beating anymore, so this blow didn't do much damage to him, and his blood volume just dropped a little. Ho! Confusion flashed in the red player's eyes. He didn't understand why the other party did this. At this time, Huang Mao, who was holding the bow, was slightly startled, scratched his head and said, "Is it my imagination? This zombie seemed to be winking at us just now." The boss, Lan Mao, raised the iron sword and chuckled, "I think you are going crazy with hunger. Even if you are a player, we will still kill him." After saying this, he raised his sword and moved forward, hitting the player in red head on. At this time, the player in red has already turned into a corpse. The shocking changes that the zombies can enjoy are enhanced, and he can also enjoy them. Throat. The sound of metal clashing sounded, and the player in red blocked it with his claws. Why do you want to kill me?" The player in red roared angrily. The boss's blue-haired pupils shrank. This zombie was actually conscious. He didn't think much, quickly distanced himself from it, and spoke to other players. "Be careful, this zombie is weird." As the captain of the team, Lan Mao must have some means and awareness to be able to level up in the wild where zombies are rampant. Huang Mao frowned and said, "Boss, I think we'll just forget it. Anyway, we don't lack experience with this zombie." "No, this zombie is extraordinary. The experience it drops must be higher than other zombies." Lan Mao smiled slightly and immediately rejected Huang Mao's idea of retreating. It is indeed risky to continue fighting, but the bigger the storm, the more expensive the fish, so it is still worth the risk. The player in red felt his body getting heavier and heavier, a strong sense of hunger came over him, and his corpse nature soon took over his human nature. He became bloodthirsty. "Food, you are all my food," roar. As soon as the blue-haired player raised his hand, 3 more archers immediately stood up from the team, and several sounds of cracking through the air were heard. Arrows pierced into the body of the corpse-turned red player like raindrops. He was shot back and forth, and there was no chance of him getting in. Finally, the corpse-turned red player still fell down due to lack of blood. Although he enjoyed the enhancement of shocking change, he still seemed too weak when facing a large number of players. Lan Mao sneered, picked up the golden carrot dropped by the player in red and ate it. "I thought it was so awesome. It turns out this is it. No, give it back to me. Give me back the golden carrot." Roar. The corpse nature in the red player's eyes quickly receded, and humanity reoccupied his consciousness. He tried to struggle to get up, but was pushed down again by Lan Mao's kick. "This is the golden carrot. It is the most cost-effective food. It really deserves its reputation, ha ha ha." Lan Mao wiped his mouth with a look of enjoyment on his face. Their team usually doesn't bring food when they go out for leveling. After killing the zombies, they just eat some carrion on the spot to deal with it. Even if they were beaten to death, they would not dare to eat golden carrots as their daily rations. "Boss, please kill it quickly and see if there are any radishes left in its backpack. We want to eat it too." Huang Mao's eyes shone. Only the guild leader was entitled to such luxury goods as golden carrots. They, the little guys, could only watch others eat them. Lan Mao laughed, waved his hand, and drew out the iron sword again with his right hand. "Okay, brothers, follow me and enjoy the blessings." If this zombie explodes other golden carrots, everyone will share. Okay. The boss is mighty, the boss is domineering. All the boys cheered and cheered. Now they were very nervous about food. In their hearts, eating golden carrots was as important as eating dumplings during the Chinese New Year. The blue-haired player didn't hesitate, stepped on the red player's head with his right foot, pulled out his iron sword and stabbed straight into the skinny neck. The red player's eyes began to blur. Between life and death, time seemed to freeze at this moment, and the whole world stopped moving. He laughed at himself. His life was just a big joke. The first night he came to this world, he almost died from a zombie, and he saved his life by digging out 3 things and filling them up. As a player, he has not awakened any profession. He belongs to the group with extremely poor talent and is nicknamed Waste by people on the forum. Later, a sudden change began, and he met his friend in white who was also a trash. They walked together, happily wanting to join the players' union and live well in this world through their own efforts. But I was told by the union that trash and dogs were not allowed. Ha ha ha, wry smile. Then something unexpected happened, and he and his friends embarked on a journey of escape. They ate carrion when they were hungry, crawled into tunnels when in danger, were homeless, and slept in the open. How could it be summed up in one word? But waste is waste after all, and in the end they were eaten by zombies in the tunnel. Their friend died on the spot, and he became a thinking zombie relying on his faith in God. After turning into a zombie, he had the combat power he dreamed of. He originally thought he could get rid of the title of trash, join the union, and work hard to survive. Pity. He was naive again. He can no longer be regarded as a player. The zombie nature that rages in his body at any time has forever deprived him of his qualifications as a human being. I'm still too weak. Even if I become like this, I'm still too weak. God, why are you so unfair? How come others can awaken powerful power, but I have to be trampled under your feet and humiliated? No fair. None of this is fair. The player in red roared angrily, and time began to pass again. He suddenly grabbed the tip of the sword, and the strong feeling of suffocation caused his body to start mutating for the second time, and there was a faint flash of lightning around him. Bang! The iron sword instantly shattered, and the player in red suddenly stood up, opened his bloody mouth and bit off Lan Mao's neck. Ah! Save me! Lan Mao's eyes widened, full of confusion and disbelief. He wanted to call for help, but it was too late at this moment. The fracture of his spine caused him to lose control of his body, and his hands hung down helplessly. Do. The blue-haired equipment exploded all over the place, and all of them were sucked away by the players in red. The laughter stopped suddenly. This sudden change left Huang Mao and the other boys stunned on the spot, unable to recover for a long time. They couldn't understand why the zombies who were nearly dead and out of strength just now could burst out with such powerful power. In front of the blue-haired boy, the red-clothed player put on the iron armor he had attracted and put it on himself as if no one else was watching. He acted like a real player. Ha ha ha, this is power, this is the power of not being afraid of death. He smiled, very happily. This was the first time he came into contact with something like armor, and the first time he felt protected. Not bad. As the words fell, the player in red began to change. His charred skin slowly began to transition to blue-green, the white light in his eyes gradually brightened, and the flashing electric snake in his body became more and more obvious. Immediately afterwards, the zombie bite marks on his body healed rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye, and arrows all over his body fell off one after another. The player in red mutated from a zombie into a drowned zombie out of thin air. No, impossible. How could a zombie turn into a drowned corpse without the help of water? Huang Mao screamed, unable to believe what happened in front of him. In Minecraft, drowned zombies are mutated from drowned zombies. They are undead mutant creatures. One of the necessary conditions for the emergence of drowned zombies is water. Without the help of water, zombies would never become drowned. But life is not a vast ocean. Players in red have always longed for a better life, but they drowned in it again and again. Living water is the most deadly. No, you were wrong. Who said you can't drown without water? Ha ha ha. The drowned corpse in red smiled so wildly. I was drowned, and it was not the water that drowned me, but you, the injustice of God, and all those who trampled on the weak. When a zombie becomes a drowned corpse, water is not the key. The key point is suffering and suffocation. Only by experiencing extreme suffering can zombies mutate into drowned corpses. Water is just a medium of suffering. The red-clothed drowned corpse closed his eyes, feeling the power surging within his body, and continued. The suffocating feeling of being trapped underwater, unable to struggle, and unable to resist is the real reason why I regained my life. Although we are weak, we are qualified to survive. Why do you want to trample on us? Why? The words of the drowned corpse in red seemed to be talking to Huang Mao and his group, and they also seemed to be scolding God directly, frantically venting his inner grievances and unwillingness. As a low-level player, his only wish is to survive in this troubled world. The suffering of life is like an ocean with no end in sight, drowning him in it over and over again. Since you want me to die, then I will turn into a dead spirit and show it to you. Huang Mao and his party were frightened. There was only one word in their hearts, and that was to escape. The further away the better. The drowned corpse's breath alone made them unable to breathe. This was a blue demon. Brothers, run. Go back to the base. As long as we return to the base, the president will definitely save us. Ah! The drowned corpse in red licked his lips, looked at the people running around, and said with interest. I'm hungry, do you have anything to eat? Falling alive, the red-clothed drowned corpse flashed and came directly behind a player, biting off a large piece of flesh and blood in one bite. Ha ha ha, the smell of blood is really addictive. Doo-doo-doo, the sound of equipment falling. The drowned corpse in red picked up the bow and arrow on the ground. After looking at it for a while, he picked up the arrow, knocked the bow and drew the arrow, aiming at the position of Huang Mao's heart. It seems you were the first arrow I shot just now. Then I'll let you have a taste too. The red-clothed drowned corpse kept picking at the equipment in front of him, surrounded by the blood of players, whose bodies had long since disappeared. This world is very unique, somewhere between games and reality, between real and fake. Creatures have clear blood bars. When injured, they will bleed and feel pain. Even if you don't treat them in time, your blood will continue to be deducted until you die. 5 minutes after the creature dies, the body will turn into a plume of white smoke and disappear, as if it had never existed at all. The red-clothed drowned corpse felt that he was still very hungry. He picked up the carrion in the player's backpack and put it into his mouth to take a few bites. But the strong smell of corpses made it impossible for him to swallow it. He had survived on carrion at first, but now he could no longer eat carrion, which forced him to accept the fact that he was no longer a player. The red-clothed drowned corpse took the equipment that he had never been able to possess before and looked around, with endless confusion in his eyes. After the crazy killing, the calmness has dropped to freezing point. Where should I go now? What is the meaning of my existence? The drowned corpse in red sat on the ground minding his own business and began to ponder what he should do next. How about I go find God? Forget it. God is so powerful, he definitely doesn't need me. Since the golden carrot was eaten, the anger in his heart has dissipated, and the true God Herobrine has become his belief instead of a real person. Then what should I do? The red-clothed drowned corpse has undergone a second mutation. He no longer needs to rely on faith to live. He is conscious and very clear, and there is not even a trace of death. The surrounding zombies slowly began to gather here. They were attracted by the player's blood, but when they came here they found that there was no trace of flesh and blood. Some doubts flashed instinctively in their eyes, but they had no intelligence and were quickly dispelled by the chaos in their hearts. The drowned corpse in red clothes on the side seemed to be coated with a layer of transparent powder, and the zombies around him ignored him at all. This turned the originally held difficulty trial into a peaceful mode for him. The red-clothed drowned corpse had a headache, so he simply took off his equipment, lay down on the grass square and fell asleep. Time flies and the sun sets. The drowned man in red felt his face sting. He opened his eyes and saw a chicken. Giggle, tilt head. The surrounding zombies stared directly at the chicken, but did not swarm over it due to the pressure from the drowned corpse in red. The drowned corpse in red smiled slightly, grabbed the chicken and stuffed it into his mouth. The chicken began to tremble instinctively due to attack, and crowd clucking even more vigorously. Base. A flash of light flashed through the red-clothed drowned corpse's mind. He first looked at the chicken in his hand, and then at the zombies around him. The sadness that comes from it cannot be cut off. Thinking about how similar he was to this chicken back then, weak, helpless, pitiful, surrounded by dangers, and one wrong step would lead to eternal disaster. Now that he has the power, can he do something? Or use your current power to do something for the whole world? This moment, the red-clothed drowned corpse seemed to have an epiphany, and said to the white-feathered chicken, "Brother chicken, are you willing to be my companion, so that we can hold up a sky for the weak in the world?" Chicken. Cluck cluck. The drowned corpse in red smiled. "If you don't shake your head, you agree. I'm glad to be your partner." After saying that, he turned around and roared, directly driving away the zombies around him. Just when the drowned corpse in red was finding its direction in life, the eyes of this white-feathered chicken suddenly became smart, as if it suddenly gained intelligence. "Hello, drowned corpse." The drowned man in red felt his scalp numb, and an extremely sacred pressure enveloped him instantly. He didn't think much and pushed his legs hard. He jumped back more than 10 meters and quickly distanced himself from the chicken. "Who are you? What did you do to my chicken brother?" Roar. The white-feathered chicken couldn't help but chuckle when he saw the red-clothed drowned corpse's reaction. "Don't be nervous, I don't mean any harm. Your chicken brother isn't hurt either, he's just asleep." No malice. The red-clothed zombie straightened up dubiously, but the vigilance in his eyes still did not fade away. At this time, the white-feathered chicken still had the aura of a weak chicken. Its eyes were white and full of pressure, and every move revealed a godlike will. The white-feathered chicken flapped its wings and continued. "Your birth is completely different from ordinary drowned zombies. You are special. Aha, you don't have a name yet. How about I call you the Drowned King?" The red-clothed drowned corpse thought for a while. He was no longer a player, so his previous name naturally had to be changed. The Drowned King. It sounds pretty good. Who are you? Don't play tricks on me. The Drowned King's eyes were still wary. The possessed white-feathered chicken walked back and forth a few times, thought for a moment and said, "I can be any block, any creature, maybe even yourself, ha ha ha." The white-feathered chicken looks up to the sky and smiles, giving people a bohemian feeling. The Drowned King was slightly startled. This laughter was actually somewhat similar to his own, but it seemed to be mixed with some vicissitudes of life. "Why don't you just give me a name when you come to me?" The Drowned King continued. The white-feathered chicken stopped, his expression became serious, and his voice was still that of the Drowned King. "Of course not. Your birth is special, and your ideas are also special. My philosophy." The Drowned King groaned. White-feathered chicken nodded and continued. "Yes, it is your idea. The essence of this world is actually composed of various ideas. And establishing destiny for the weak and creating peace for the weak, this is your philosophy. A philosophy that is completely under your control." The vigilance in the eyes of the Drowned King was slowly replaced by shock. The other party's words were a bit profound and difficult to understand, but he was greatly shocked. After thinking for a moment, the Drowned King spoke again. "So your purpose is to praise me?" "Ha ha ha, no no no. I'm here to give you an opportunity. You are still too weak now, and your strength is only equivalent to a level 20 player. How can you support such a great idea?" The white-feathered chicken was very patient with the Drowned King and continued. "You lack a useful weapon now. Soon I will open a secret realm in the trial place. There are treasures in the secret realm that can make you stronger, ha ha ha. Of course, other players in the secret realm can also participate. Whether you can win the treasure depends on your own luck." The Drowned King scratched his head and said with some confusion, "Why don't you just give it to me? Why bother?" "No, because this is also a test for you." "Okay, I don't have much time. Do you have anything else to ask? If not, then I'm leaving." The white-feathered chicken began to flutter its wings, and the white in its eyes flashed, as if the opponent really couldn't hold on anymore. The Drowned King pondered for a moment and then asked a question that stunned the white-feathered chicken. "Did you create this place of trial? Base in game?" A solemn look appeared on Feather Chicken's face. He nodded, and then shook his head. "Yes, but I'm just one of them. There are many gods in this world, more than you think. So don't be too arrogant. Maybe a player you meet is the mortal body of a certain god." Having said this, the white light in the white-feathered chicken's eyes became noticeably lighter. The Drowned King quickly seized the opportunity to ask the last question. "What is the mortal body?" The light in Bai Yuji's eyes faded, and he didn't know whether it was intentional or deliberately avoiding the problem. Yeah, this question is a bit sensitive. I'll answer it for you next time. See you soon. The moment the sound disappeared, Bai Feather Chicken's eyes quickly returned to clarity. Oh, by the way, I opened Lingzi for your chicken brother. It's a gift for you. You're welcome. The drowned king's own voice came from nowhere. It was very ethereal and illusory. The drowned king pondered. He always felt that this god was a bit strange and very kind. He was so kind that he did not doubt the other person's words. Is this a god? It's really terrifying. Also, what exactly is the mortal body of a god? The drowned king couldn't help but feel a big headache. He could have lived a wild life, but he just acted on his simple idea. But the other party insists on labeling themselves with an idea. In a way, this is Pua itself. Forget it, I'm fine anyway, let's just play it for fun. Come on, brother chicken, I'll take you to see this 1100th world. The white-feathered chicken has just opened its spiritual intelligence and is very curious about everything. Who are you, huh? The drowned king lifted the white-feathered chicken on his shoulders and smiled calmly. Your teammates, of course you can also call me boss. What is a teammate, huh? Teammates are like-minded friends. Anyway, you will understand later. Brother chicken, are you hungry? I will go to the Players Guild to grab some seeds for you to eat. Okay, giggle. Time flies, and a week has passed. On the 23rd day of the shocking incident, the zombies received another wave of reinforcements. Inside the base, Jizin Gang had just killed nearly 1,000 zombies, and his whole body, including the 5 obsidian puppets, became a bloody man. Of course, the blood belongs to zombies. I got some water, washed myself, and then put on a clean pair of armor. After several days of leveling up, his level finally jumped from 13 to 14. It's not easy to upgrade. Ji Xin lay on the pink bed and stretched out comfortably. A few days ago, Wang Chang caught 2 sheep somewhere. He originally wanted to kill them for meat, but Ji Xin stopped them. This kind of prodigal man knows nothing about sustainable development. Now that the construction of the Bailu farm has been completed, there are so many crops that we can't eat them all. It would be a pity not to raise some cows, sheep, and chickens. So the matter of breeding sheep was left to Wang Chang. What's outrageous is that reality is no better than the game. In the game, you only need to feed 2 corresponding crops to 2 of the same species, and they will give birth to new life. But in reality, the probability of 2 species mating is random, and the probability of giving birth to new life is still random. Under double randomization, the yield of these 2 sheep was ridiculously low. The wheat that was fed was a waste to the entire group. Fortunately, Ji Xin was not short of food. If other players knew about this, they would have to say something. Your sheepfold is still short of sheep. In the end, Wang Chang was killed in anger, and the only bed in the base was born. Because it is difficult to breed cattle and sheep, the profession of livestock herders was derived, but most people in this profession are completely monopolized by the food union. Ji Xin opened the forum of the system panel, wanting to see what was new recently. Open black lens bracket shock. The food guild was attacked by the blue demon, and a large amount of seeds and meat were lost to the food guild. The food guild suffered heavy losses. Close black lens bracket. Blue demon, a player after awakening. Haha, there are such good things. As soon as Ji Xin saw the attack on the food guild, he immediately showed his ugly face. The food guild and the stonemasons guild wear the same pair of trousers. At first, apart from the Masons Association, it was the food union that ostracized him the most. He was blocked from chatting or buying things, not only himself, but also the people under his control. Zombies are now rampant outside the base, and all living creatures have been bitten to death, so that other people don't even have a decent bed now. Fortunately, I accepted Wu Nian and used his system to buy some meat from the food guild for a change. Usually they can only make do with some golden carrots. Ji Xin wanted to take revenge on the other party, but he always had no way out. Their food is priced close to the people, with small profits but quick turnover, so they can't fight a price war at all. They made hundreds of golden puppets, and they were busy making golden carrots to send to the Piglin King, and they had no time to fight for quality. This gave Ji Xin a huge headache because his food had no competitive advantage at all. Hee hee, He didn't expect that the other party would suffer something bad today, which made him feel a little gloating about his misfortune. Brother G, the golden carrot has been sent. The Pig Spirit King asked me to take a message and ask you to sit there and chat with him when you are free. At this time, Wu Yan walked into the cave with a burning breath, followed by a few silly stone puppets to move the boxes. Ji Shin nodded and continued to give instructions. Let the golden puppet hurry up and prepare for next month. Don't slack off. Wu Yan was very familiar with the terrain of hell, so the matter of delivering golden carrots was naturally left in his hands, and Ji Shin became the hands-off shopkeeper himself. After Wu Yan left, Chu Ling'er walked in with a straw puppet on her head and said with a smile on her face, I have good news for you. Today, the sales volume of food in our D store has tripled, and all of them have received positive reviews. Chu Ling'er is now the director of the Food and Logistics Department of the base, responsible for the food and drink of everyone in the base, as well as the management of the D store. Yeah, I got it. Ji Shin smiled. Now that the food guild is exploding, it's almost like God is helping him. After the food workers recover from the crisis, their golden puppets can also free their hands to fight the quality war. When the time comes, sell golden wheat and scare the other party to death. After Chu Ling'er reported her work, she exited the cave. In a sense, this cave was Ji Shin's private room and leadership office. Other people in the base have built their own houses outside the cave, and usually only gather together to chat during meals. Ji Shin was lying on the bed happily browsing the forum. It would be useful to have a few more followers. If he was left to do all these things alone, he would be bored to death. So he is more suitable to lead Enjoy Happiness. Open black lens bracket ding. The secret realm of water is about to begin. Players who participate are asked to go to the corresponding coordinate entrance as soon as possible. Ji Shin. This pig is perfect for barbecue at first glance. At the same time, all players in the trial area received the message that the secret realm was about to be opened. For a time, both retail players and union players were all agitated. The system gave very little information about the secret realm, that is, it was called the Water Country, and I had no idea what dangers and opportunities there were. Ji Shin rubbed his chin and pondered, wondering why a secret trial would suddenly pop up for him. Is the Water Country related to water? In this case, we must be well prepared. Except for the disaster lark, everyone in the base received the message from the system. They all looked in the direction of the cave, with various expressions flashing in their eyes. Now that Ji Shin is their co-owner, they have to ask for Ji Shin's opinion whether to go to the secret realm or not. Half an hour later, everyone gathered in the cave, speechless. Ji Shin stretched out his hand to control a block, leaned back and lay down on it. His voice was a little lazy and he said, Tell me what you think. Wang Cheng lowered his head and was silent for a moment before speaking first. There aren't many in our iron armor gang who are good at water, so we won't go. We will stay and guard the house. Not good at water. All of them. Ji Shin took a deep look at Wang Cheng and quickly understood the other person's intention. Anything about not being good at water is all lies. Even a fool can feel that this secret realm is not simple. There must be some chance in it. However, the Iron Armor gang chose to stay all together. This was undoubtedly to give Ji Shin no worries. After all, various facilities in the base needed maintenance every day, and it was impossible to live without people. Of course, Ji Shin didn't point it out. He was very pleased that the other party had this intention. What about you two? Ji Shin turned to Wu Yan and Chu Ling'er and said. Wu Yan behaved respectfully and said, I am willing to accompany Brother Ji there. I want to go too, my swimming skills are very good. Chu Ling'er raised her hand to speak. Ji Shin looked at Chu Ling'er with a strange look in his eyes, and replied with a hint of doubt in his voice. This is a secret realm. You really think it's a swimming pool? Wu Yan is an A-level professional. You, a C-level professional, don't die in there. Ji Shin didn't mean to look down on the other party, but simply felt that Chu Ling'er was too weak. After being trained by Ji Shin, Chu Ling'er immediately became honest and said. Actually, I'm not as weak as you think. Since you won't let me go, I'll farm at home. Go if you want. Ji Shin shook his head helplessly. The other person wanted to go, so he had no reason to restrict other people's choices. Life and death are determined by destiny. Wealth is in heaven, even if she dies inside, it is her own destiny. Okay, I'll go and hand over the farm affairs to the Calamity Lark. Disaster Lark has been staying with Chulinger recently, taking care of the farm together. As for whether to let the Calamity Lark go to the secret realm, Jishin's answer is no. Even if the other party wants to go, he won't allow it. It's too dangerous. There are many entrances to the secret realm, covering almost the entire trial area, and the coordinates recommended by the system are only the entrance closest to the player. Jishin, Wunyan, and Chulinger followed the system's prompts and soon arrived at an estuary. The coastline of this estuary is very wide, and there is a huge whirlpool above the sea. If nothing else, it must be the entrance to the secret realm. It's just that the secret realm is not open now, and the vortex is still unselectable. In addition, I don't know if it is Jishin's misunderstanding. Since the notification of the trial in the Water Kingdom, the number of zombies that have changed has obviously decreased, as if they are making way for the trial in the secret realm. Jishin is not in a hurry. He has plenty of time now, so it doesn't hurt to wait a little. Brother G, is the security at the base really okay? I'm worried that the people in the disaster land will. Wunyan looked at the direction of the base and said. Jishin was stunned when he heard this, and then smiled calmly. Relax. I have built thousands of stone puppets, nearly 100 steel puppets, and nearly 5,000 puppets with various functions in the base. Even if a demigod comes, he will have to get slapped twice before leaving. During this period, apart from leveling up, Jishin was making puppets. If he didn't have enough iron, he would use stones. He would make anything that could improve his combat power. Ah, there are so many. Wunyan's mouth twitched after hearing this. Good guy, it's really a waste of worry. The three of them were chatting and laughing, without any sense of nervousness before entering the secret realm. On the other side, the drowned king came to an entrance with the white-feathered chicken. Brother Chicken, it might be dangerous in here. I think it's better for you to stay outside and wait for me. The drowned king looked at the vortex in front of him with a solemn expression. Kiki, okay, you must not die in there. Come out and let's steal the players' food together. The white-feathered chicken jumped off the drowned king. This secret realm was originally prepared by the indescribable god for the drowned king. He, a weakling, had better not participate. Brother Chicken, it's unlucky for you to talk like this. The drowned king smiled slightly and didn't care. Suddenly, the vortex exploded, releasing a dazzling blue light. Wherever the blue light went, the players disappeared one after another. Jishin felt his eyes light up, and the system's voice rang. Open black lens bracket ding. The secret land of water is opened. You will be randomly transported to various corners of the secret realm. The first mission is now released. Fight for the heart of the ocean and survive. As soon as the system finished speaking, a strong sense of suffocation instantly spread throughout Jishin's body. He opened his eyes and looked around. He was surrounded by seawater, and he was at the lowest part of the ocean. Jishin did not panic. After deciphering the first level of genetic lock, his lung capacity also increased surprisingly. The water would not be able to drown him for a while. He tried to wave his hands and tried to surface, but failed. Although this is the bottom of the sea, there is no buoyancy at all, as if this law has been wiped out of thin air. Jishin frowned and quickly took out a wooden door from his backpack and inserted it into the ground. With the wooden door blocking the water flow, the middle instantly becomes a vacuum zone, and the suffocating feeling of drowning disappears. He had expected this situation a long time ago. As the wooden door is an artifact for underwater exploration, how could he not bring it with him? It seems that the potion project must be put on the schedule as soon as possible. Jishin secretly thought that if there was a potion for underwater breathing, things would become easier. Ah! 3 or 2 strangled screams were heard. Jishin looked sideways and saw that there were actually 3 players around. When one of the players saw Jishin's operation, his eyes widened, and the group chat message was sent over on the spot. Erha! Brother, are there still wooden doors? Jishin. No more. Blue sky and white clouds. Brother. I'll give you 1 month's lifespan and sell me one. Jishin. I have birch wood doors and oak wood doors, which one do you want? Erha! Erha! Didn't you say there is no wooden door? Close black lens bracket. Jishin. Schrodinger's wooden door. Close black lens bracket. Erha. Good guy, profiteer. Give me one too, and 1 month of longevity will be transferred to you. Close black lens bracket. Balala little demon fairy. I want one too. Close black lens bracket. Buying a wooden door for a month is obviously taking advantage of the situation, but they have to buy it. After a while, 3 wooden doors appeared deep under the sea. Erha, brother, how did you come up with the idea of using wooden doors to block the water flow? It's so amazing. Close black lens bracket. D Shin. Common sense. Close black lens bracket. After coming to this world, although everyone has been forcibly implanted with some 1100th worldviews, only the MC game party knows the tricks of blocking water with wooden doors. Lan Tian Bai Yun. What are we going to do next? Is it possible that we have to spend time here all the time? Close black lens bracket. Erha, how about we form a team and help each other? Close black lens bracket. Balala little demon fairy. Okay. Agree. Close black lens bracket. Lan Tian Bai Yun. I agree too. Close black lens bracket. The 3 of them looked at Ji Shin with confusion in their eyes. Team up. Snort. Ji Shin felt contempt in his heart. A temporary team like this would only protect those with deep thoughts. Whoever truly treats strangers as teammates will die the fastest. Forget it. I like to walk alone. Bye. Ji Shin refused without thinking, took out the wooden door and started to leave. There was a trace of dissatisfaction on Erha's face. He was the one who proposed the team building. When the other party said this, he was slapping him in the face in a different direction without saving any face. Why are you so awesome? If you sell a wooden door for 1 month's life, I've already seen you unhappy. I'm leaving my words here. If you leave the team, you will definitely be the first to die. As soon as these words came out, the surroundings became silent for a moment, and only the sound of gurgling water could be heard. Ji Shin stopped, his eyes narrowed, and a faint white light overflowed from them. Oh, really? You are so capable. Erha wanted to say something more, but the sand under his feet suddenly disappeared, and the wooden door above also fell together. This is not over yet. The sand on both sides is being squeezed crazily towards the middle under the pull of the power of creation. Ah, what's going on? What's going on? Help me, breathe, I want to breathe. Erha was frightened and kept struggling, trying to dig up the sand and breathe air. Ji Shin's eyes were cold and he turned to look at these 3 people. You are the most dangerous people here. If you keep talking nonsense, believe it or not, I will slap you all to death. As he finished speaking, the 14-level coercion around Ji Shin continued to stir up the seawater, causing the wooden door stuck in the ground to creak. No matter how powerful a creature without intelligence is, there are ways to deal with it. Once a creature becomes intelligent, even a chicken on the roadside may kill you at any time. Level 14. The 3 of them all took a breath. The average level of the forum players is now only level 6, and the opponent has more than doubled it. Now I'm not the first to die. After Ji Shin saw that the 3 people were honest, he took out the wooden door from the backpack space to block the water and left. Balala little demon fairy and Lan Tianbayan looked at each other and communicated through the system. Save Erha or not, it seems he can be saved. I think the armor on him is pretty good. Close black lens bracket. Then when the equipment explodes, the iron boots will be mine. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, make a deal. Close black lens bracket. The view of the seabed is very poor, it is a kind of turbid black, and the surrounding is foggy, giving people a strong sense of oppression. Ji Shin walked very slowly, with 3 obsidian puppets in front of him holding wooden doors to open the way, and 2 obsidian puppets behind him waving their fists to collect the wooden doors. Then the cycle continued, creating a water vacuum zone for Ji Shin to walk on. The first trial goal released by the system is to find the heart of the ocean. In the game, the heart of the ocean is a material used to synthesize the tide core, but its uses are not widespread. Ji Shin didn't realize that the system task would ask him to make a surge core. This is more like a key to the sea. While he was deep in thought, a bright light in the distance caught his attention. Take a closer look, isn't that the heart of the ocean you were looking for? Handsome people are always lucky. Ji Shin winked, and puppet number 1 walked over with a swagger as if he didn't recognize his relatives. He knew with his toes that there must be cannon fodder guards there. As he expected, as soon as the obsidian puppet entered within 10 meters of the heart of the ocean, there was an immediate movement around it. A one-eyed ocean guardian jumped out immediately and fired lasers at the obsidian puppet. In the game, guardians are fish creatures that spawn in underwater temples. They are all green and have only one eye. Their main attack methods are to release lasers, long range, and fang attacks melee. They are very difficult and deadly. Jurjurji. The guardian's eyes instinctively flashed with anger, and he was about to launch a second attack. Bang! Blood splattered everywhere. The obsidian puppet clapped his hands, then shook off the guardian stuck to his hands, and scratched his head in confusion. This guardian died on the spot like a mosquito, without even dropping anything. Ji Shin was amused. Ganqing had no level bonus and was just an ordinary level 0 rookie. The obsidian puppet delivered the heart of the ocean to its master, and its tall body rubbed Ji Shin's arm, seeking praise. Heart of the ocean, ocean key, +1. Function. Twisting can transport the player out of the deep sea purgatory and officially enter the water kingdom. Close black lens bracket. This level is very carefully designed. Although there are no monsters that are difficult to deal with, there is very deadly water. If he hadn't been prepared, he would probably have fallen here. The deep sea purgatory really deserves its reputation. Well done. You can go back now. Ji Shin smiled and praised the obsidian puppet. After receiving the compliment, the obsidian puppet appeared very happy and slowly turned into a black shadow and merged with Ji Shin. Let's go. Let me see what the real water country looks like. On the other side, the drowned king was wandering aimlessly on the bottom of the sea. He liked this feeling very much. Free, powerful, and suffocating with a little excitement. He is a drowned corpse, and his nature longs for suffocation, or in other words, he should originally live underwater. This place is purgatory for the player, but for him, he can only go home. Obviously, God has given him a small plan, so that he can remove a lot of obstacles. It's just that he was very unlucky. He found 2 platforms that held the heart of the ocean, but they were all empty, which made him a little annoyed. Suddenly, the drowned king saw the 3rd platform. His blessing. Let me open a heart of the ocean, please. After praying, he straightened up and swam quickly to the platform. During this period, he also unexpectedly saw a beaten guardian. The corpse could exist for 5 minutes. Tisk, tisk, tisk. How miserable. As they are both marine creatures, the drowned king still sympathizes with this fellow guardian. The nest. Why is it empty again? Outside the secret realm, a white feathered chicken was standing on a grass block in a daze. It doesn't scream, doesn't move, doesn't breathe, and is incompatible with the dynamic world around it. The surrounding zombies instinctively twisted their stiff necks and whimpered in their throats. They smelled something alive. The next moment, the most primitive corpse nature quickly occupied their consciousness, twisting their slightly stiff bodies and pounced towards the white feathered chicken. Oolong. Under the clear sky, lightning as thick as a bowl struck down, and the leading zombie was directly chopped into carrion, leaving no corpse behind. Get out. I'm not in the mood to play with you right now. The white feathered chicken turned around and its 2 eyeballs rotated wildly. When you zoomed in, you could actually see 2 pictures in the chicken's eyes. It looks like the drowned king collapsed without getting the heart of the ocean. The other picture shows Ji Shin twisting the heart of the ocean and being transported to the water country. There was a difference of exactly 5 minutes. Almost. Just almost. But don't worry, I still have a chance. The white feathered chicken smiled, flapped his wings, spun around in circles, and roared excitedly. We will meet again soon. Even though we are only in mortal form, I am still looking forward to it. The heart of the ocean shattered, and the blue light flashed away. Ji Shin opened his eyes, and what he saw was a glowing sea crystal lantern, and there was no sound around him. He raised his eyes and saw an aerial water city appearing in the distance. Only its outline could be seen among the clouds and mist. Overall, it does live up to the title of a water country. Ji Shin looked around and realized that he was on a small floating island with a tree behind him and a wooden box lying quietly under the tree. Not only that, there are not even 10,000 but 8,000 islands like this around, scattered around the water city, like planets revolving around the sun. Survival on an island. No, this is survival on an island with multiple people online at the same time. Ji Shin chuckled, instantly becoming interested. He is also an expert in Sky Island survival. He starts with only one tree, and his home depends entirely on his liver. This is a way for MC to create miracles. Open black lens bracket ding. Welcome to the water country. The end of deep sea purgatory. 1,236 people successfully passed, 66,127,456 people died. Your next task is to use all the resources to go to the water city and refine the demigod-level trident in the water city. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Wish y'all good luck. Lucky dog. Close black lens bracket. Wowsow. So many people died. It's so cruel. Ji-shin was secretly surprised. This death rate was simply ridiculously high. After all, he was indeed a lucky man. I don't know if Wunyan and Chulinger have escaped. After praying for Wunyan and Chulinger for a while, he turned and looked at the empty island treasure chest. The meaning of this task issued by the system is already obvious. It is to let you use the resources on the empty island to find a way to another empty island. Continuously collect resources, and then repeat the cycle until you land in Water City. But for Ji-shin, there is no need to go to such trouble. He can just use the power of creation to control the entire Sky Island and fly there. The box opens and the items inside pop out. Bucket 1, Magma Bucket 1, Sapling 1, Bread 25, Apple 3, Diamond 1. Hey, a diamond. Ji-shin's eyes lit up and he immediately put the diamond into his backpack. The rarity of diamonds in the trial land was considered abnormal. He controlled the stone puppet to mine for more than a month, and he only managed to collect 8 diamonds. To make a diamond puppet, you need 4 diamond blocks, which is 36 diamonds. Without the diamond puppet, his enchantment would never be useful, so it has been on hold. If it weren't for the fact that others couldn't dig it out, he would have thought it was because the base's feng shui was not good. Putting the diamond away happily, Ji-shin's eyes lit up with white light, and he controlled the island to move towards another island. Set a small goal first, open 100 diamonds. An empty island in a desert complex in the distance. The scar-faced player rubbed the diamond in his hand with excitement. Hey, let me go, this is a diamond. It seems that my trip to the secret realm was not in vain. Ha ha ha. The rare quantity of diamonds, once they flow into the trial land, will cost at least several months of life for 1 diamond. Just as Scarface laughed, Ji-shin controlled the Sky Island and drove slowly towards it. My dear friend, have you seen the diamond I left here? Oh, let me go. Where did the empty island come from? Scarface was busy being happy just now and didn't see how Ji-shin brought the empty island here. Young boy, go and play. There are no diamonds you left here. Scarface had not yet realized that the other person was talking about the diamond in his hand. Ji-shin didn't care and continued. I think the diamond in your hand was dropped by me. Did you leave it behind? Scarface scratched his head and suddenly understood the meaning of the other party's words. Wasn't this just for robbery? Today is really an eye-opener. Someone dares to take advantage of my diamond. I think you are impatient. Scarface raised his mouth and his muscles swelled. You also go out and find out who founded the Equipment Union. Falling alive, the coercion around Scarface gradually rose, and Ji-shin's clothes squeaked as the level 9 coercion surged. To tell you the truth, I am the president of the Equipment Union. Now if you kowtow to me and apologize, I might be able to let you go, a horse. Before Scarface could finish his words, Ji-shin's level 14 pressure hit him directly, causing his face to wrinkle. Level 10, 14. Ji-shin smiled honestly, narrowed his eyes into a pair of crescent moons, and said again, my dear friend, I accidentally fell into your hands a diamond. Can you return it to me? Nima. Scarface's eyes almost popped out of his head. He had never seen such a shameless person. Seeing that the other party was still hesitating, Ji-shin immediately took out the withering claw from his backpack, and his smile gradually turned cold. You said you are the president of the Equipment Association, so you should have the means to identify the equipment in my hand. There was already cold sweat on Scarface's forehead. He did have a way to appraise the equipment in other people's hands, because his profession was a B-level equipment appraiser. In his opinion, this skinny skeleton claw can actually do up to 60 points of damage. If it hits him, it will kill him in seconds. Hee. Brother, why didn't you tell me earlier? Diamonds are so valuable and you fell into my arms. What if I lose them? Give them here and take them. Scarface's painting style suddenly changed, and he approached Jishin with a smile on his face. He respectfully stuffed his unwarmed diamond into Jishin's arms and said again, "Brother, take it, I'm easy to talk to. What will you do if you fall into the hands of someone who is not easy to talk to?" Jishin showed his honest smile again, and said as brothers and sisters. "Brother, I don't accept diamonds from you for nothing. If you have anything to do with the Equipment Guild in the future, you can tell me. If I'm in a good mood, I might be able to help you get through a crisis." Scarface laughed apologetically, not daring to say anything. The withered claw with 60 attack points was still on his neck. Jishin put away the diamonds in his arms and drove away on the empty island. Scarface let out a long sigh of relief, feeling as if he had walked away from the gate of hell. The skull claw looked thin and inconspicuous, but in fact it was ridiculously strong. He had a hunch that if he was scratched by that thing, his whole body would be poisoned and withered, and there was no cure. In addition, the opponent's ability to control objects must be at least a level or above, so this person can only make friends, not enemies. Suddenly, Scarface seemed to have remembered something, and shouted loudly to Jishin, "Brother! I don't know your name yet, how can I ask you for help in the future? Search Jishin on the forum, there is my detailed information there." Jishin's voice came out from afar. Scarface scratched his cheek, feeling like he had heard this name somewhere before. He opened the forum and entered the word Jishin, and the first post that popped up was, "The biggest pervert in the cube world, Jishin, if he is not convinced, he will argue, picture Jishin's big head portrait JPG." Scarface. Jishin was in a very good mood. He walked around and collected a total of 18 diamonds. Although not every Sky Island has diamonds, this efficiency is pretty good. Just give it one last shot and then stop. He has not forgotten his main mission in coming to the secret realm. The trident is much more valuable than a few diamonds. He cannot pick up the sesame seeds and lose the watermelon. Soon, he saw an empty island in the distance. There is also a player above who used the lava and water in the box to build a stone brushing machine, and is constantly collecting stones to make paving blocks. Jishin flexed his facial muscles and put on his fake smile again. "Okay. It's him." At this time, Ja Junyu, the president of the Stonemasons Association, was desperately chipping away at the stone and said angrily, "As the president of the Stonemasons Guild, I would forget to prepare some cobblestones before I go out. What a mistake. It's really a mistake. Shout, isn't this our President Ja? Why did he start chiseling rocks after not seeing each other for a few days?" Jishin's smile became even more honest. This was really a case of enemies on a narrow road. Thinking back to the time when he was kind enough to let the other side off, the other side started spreading rumors about him on the internet. He has always remembered this grudge. Ja Junyu didn't hear Jishin's voice, he was still chipping away at the stone, and said impatiently, "Get lost. If I don't sell stones now, I won't even have enough for myself." Jishin laughed, and the other party thought he was another player who bought stones from him to build a road. "President Ja, are you selling your life?" As he spoke, the empty island where Ja Junyu was located began to melt little by little, and the cubes began to fall off into objects inexplicably. Ja Junyu's pupils shrank to the minimum in an instant. He had seen this method before, and it was a hot man. Jishin, why are you here?" Ja Junyu collapsed to the ground, his eyes full of fear. As he spoke, there was only a grass square under Ja Junyu's feet, and beneath the square was endless void. "He's covered in iron armor, and he's very well dressed, tisk tisk tisk." Jishin smashed the tooth flower seeds. He didn't expect that the Masons Association was almost bankrupted by him, and the other party was still so rich. "Spare my life, I was wrong, I am willing to use my longevity to buy my life, ah." Before Ja Jun finished speaking, the grass cube under his feet broke instantly, and he himself fell into the endless void. Jishin was scornful and drove the empty island towards Shuicheng again. "Am I short of your 3 melons and 2 dates? I can't say enough that I am the richest man in the trial land." He was not arrogant when he said this. Stone Puppet's cobblestone production line and the sale of crops on the 100-layer farm had already made him a lot of money. Jishin didn't plan to hang around anymore. He turned on the creation power to the highest level, and the other blocks on the island instantly fell apart. The remaining grass block took him flying at full speed, increasing his speed by more than 10 times. It's time to end this trip to the secret realm. The reason why Ji Shin is so laid back is because he has determined that others will not be as fast as him. I don't know why, but ever since he entered the secret realm, he has had a trace of arrogance that despises everything and a harshness in his thoughts, as if he should be like this. Ji Shin collected the grass cubes and boarded the water city. This water city looks like a country from a distance, but up close it looks like a mountain suspended in the air. Looking up, there is a large pavilion on the top of the mountain, with a golden trident stuck in the middle of the pavilion. At the same time, a blue-skinned demon happened to land in this water city. The two of them, one on the left and the other on the right, headed towards the top of the mountain at the same time. There are no monsters in the mountains of Shuicheng. The mountains are almost vertical, and some water flows from them from time to time. The two of them had an unobstructed journey and made great progress. On the right side of the mountain top, the figure of the drowned king appeared first in the small pavilion. He was breathing heavily, his whole body was already soaked, and the lightning on his body was constantly evaporating the moisture on his body. He raised his eyes and saw that what he was looking for on this trip was right in front of him. The trident is golden yellow in color, with sinuous arcs flashing on it, attacking anyone who comes close to it indiscriminately. The drowned king slowed down and walked in front of the trident, his eyes full of excitement. God's gift. It's truly extraordinary. Although the trident is golden yellow, the thunder and lightning flashing inside is extremely pure blue and white. The drowned king closed his eyes and felt that the power of thunder and lightning here had the same source as him. At this moment, they seemed to be one. He stretched out his hand to pull out the trident, but at this moment, a black shadow appeared in front of him on his left. The drowned king was suddenly startled, and before he could react, he was punched away. On the left side of the mountain, Ji Shin arrived late. When he saw someone reaching for the trident, he instinctively released his puppet to stop him. Are you a drowned corpse? Ji Shin's eyes flashed with confusion, and then he shook his head, denying his idea. No, you don't look like you haven't opened your mind. In this world, drowned corpses, like zombies, are born without intelligence. Ji Shin did not rush to pull out the trident. Compared to this treasure, he was more concerned about who the person who was one step faster than him was at this time. The drowned king wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked up at the person, his eyes gradually becoming cautious. So strong. Since my second mutation, I have never met anyone who can knock me away with one punch. The man in front of him made the drowned king feel a complete sense of oppression, but he was not afraid. The lightning in his body made him no longer afraid of anyone. The drowned king chuckled, and arcs of electricity began to flash on his body, forcing the obsidian puppet to retreat. He has completed his second mutation, and his strength is equivalent to more than 20 levels of players. An obsidian puppet still can't do anything to him. That God said that there will be a test waiting for me, and I think that test will be you. God, test? What kind of nonsense is this? Ji Shin has not experienced the growth of the drowned king, so naturally he cannot understand his words. It doesn't matter, as long as you know, there will be a battle between us. Falling alive, the drowned king's fist was wrapped with the power of thunder and hit the obsidian puppet hard. Because the obsidian golem has 100% knockback resistance like the steel golem, the drowned king's punch did not knock it away. But the next moment, click, a crack instantly covered the obsidian puppet's body, and in the blink of an eye, the puppet's body was dilapidated. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.